Many of us experience fear and allow it to stop us from actually going towards discomfort, and that may be a big reason why you're not able to progress, or you feel stuck, or you hit a plateau. I want to offer the perspective where fear is more of a friend in your story, so that as you go about continuing your skateboarding journey, you find yourself progressing a bit more efficiently in a way where you're inviting uncomfort, because you understand that's where the growth is in your journey. And so if you're someone who finds yourself in situations where you're ignoring fear, I want to give you a different perspective on how to build your relationship with it, where you're working with it instead of trying to ignore it and pretend like it shouldn't exist. A lot of people mention a phrase, fearlessness, or we look at skaters that we may admire or just like watching skate. It's perceivable that they might be fearless, but the truth is they're human as well, and chances are they go through very similar states of fear. It's just they are choosing to work with it and overcome it. I want to mention briefly a comment that was left on the video where I talked about you got to give yourself some breath in between attempts. And the response was he agreed, and he definitely liked that perspective, but he also feels a sense of anxiety as he goes back and do his tricks, to the point where he purposely rushes himself so that fear doesn't settle in. Fear is something that you don't want to fight with. It's something that you want to work with. And a lot of people mistake working with fear in the sense of when they find themselves in a state of fear, it's to go fast. But the mistake in that is when you choose to go faster as a result of fear being there, you ignore a lot of feedback it's trying to give you, or the lessons it's trying to teach you. If you're finding yourself in a situation where you're trying a trick and fear is telling you that you're not prepared, you're gonna die, or you're gonna break a bone. If fear is taking you through that conversation, what you want to get out of that feedback is, how do I build confidence so that even if fear is giving me those ideas, I can confidently respond to that feedback with a story and with experience. Being your consistency on the skateboard, your practice or ongoing practice of fundamentals, and the continuous effort to place yourself in uncomfortable situations, so that you have already built up this storyline of overcoming discomfort. If you haven't built that story or haven't had those experiences, you want to prepare yourself so when you experience fear, you aren't someone who is going to either run away or choose to fight it and just go fast in absence of technique. That's when the risk of injury goes up. That's when we start to work against ourselves. That's when we choose to believe that fear is something that we don't want, something that we want absence of our skateboarding. And for those reasons alone is why you want to learn how to work with fear. Quick story, when I was skating a stair set in the street, it was like an 8 stair, I found myself questioning my ability to do that trick, to feel comfortable going off stairs, and even just accept that this is something I truly wanted to do. Everything about that situation was telling me that I shouldn't even attempt it. The quick response was, I just need to stop being was to get it over with, try the trick, fling the board out, just form it. And all these answers to the fear were coming as a result of trying to ignore it. It wasn't until I started to ask questions that allowed me to have a conversation with fear, where I figured out maybe I should just warm up on flat ground a bit and do a couple switch flips, right? So that way I can begin to build that experience, that confidence through repetition, through iteration. This is where I needed to be very careful to not fall into this state of analysis, because the last thing I want to do is freak myself out even more, and at the end of the day, not allow fear to win in the way that it wants to, which is to stay comfortable, to stay away from those challenges, and to stay away from discomfort. Like I said, I built confidence, that story that, okay, I can do switch flips. So then you start to have a conversation, ask, what am I really afraid of? Is it the air time? And so I did just ollies, and then I did switch ollies, and that felt comfortable. And I'm like, okay. So then what else is stopping me? But more in a curious state of mind, instead of like, oh my God, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I'm just being a little, this and that. When you find yourself frustrated at yourself, annoyed even, you want to think about taking it a little bit easier on yourself and switching up that perspective to a conversation that's a bit more playful, allows you to ask questions, and has you a bit more curious. Think about how you can rewrite the story in your brain and build confidence, as opposed to feeding into that insecurity and the story where you feed your anxiety, you feed the fear in a way where it wins, where it makes it stronger, as opposed to allowing yourself to overcome fear in a way where you worked with it and you actually use fear as a tool instead of using it as something where it's the villain in your story. Rewrite a story that isn't one where you see yourself in an insecure state or someone who can't handle challenges. So an example of me building my confidence as I experience the fear of doing an ollie back 360 on this 4-stair, but ask, is it the 4 stairs? Is it that I haven't warmed up yet? Is it that I don't even have it good on flat ground yet? Is it that there's people around me and I'm kind of not able to focus on the goal at hand? You want to continuously ask these questions, because this is how you're going to problem solve and get yourself towards making what's uncomfortable a bit more comfortable, and hopefully even accomplishing the trick itself, because you've built confidence through that experience and you've allowed that experience to be a part of your bigger story that tells you are someone who can overcome challenges, as opposed to building this story where you're ignoring fear, you're not working with it, you're fighting it even, and it's having you act under fight or flight, where you're always tensing up, you're always forcing tricks instead of actually relaxing, taking a breather, allowing yourself to absorb knowledge, absorb the feedback that's going to help you overcome these challenges or these situations you find yourself in where you're experiencing that sense of fear. So the situation I have in hand is nollie backside 360 on this 4-set. As of right now, I don't feel like I can land it first go, but I definitely can throw it out, and I can see the feedback that comes about that attempt and go from there. There's a lot of feedback I got from that. I leaned in too far into the nose. I was trying to get over the stair step before I even popped. With this feedback, I'm able to either do another iteration of it or take a few steps back and maybe just practice them on flat to make sure I even have them on flat first. I'm gonna do 3 on flat ground. Based on how I feel with those, I'm going to go for another attempt, because again, I don't want to keep feeding that anxiety, that fear, and trying to ignore things I might need to work on. Instead, I want to work on building that confidence and rewriting that story that I have in my head.
Oh my God.
I'm right here trying to do it on the 4-stair and I can't even do it on flat. Okay. I didn't necessarily build confidence here. I did land 1 out of 3. And what that told me is I still need to warm up to this. And so in this situation, what I would do is just do a couple more nollie back 3s until I build that confidence, and I make sure to apply myself, like I always reference, staying over the lead foot, being engaged, and looking to the direction I'm going. That way, this is a bit more instinctual, a bit more intuitive, and it's not something I have to fight with or even ignore in my attempts to actually land this. I'm gonna give it, let's say, 3 more tries. Okay, that one popped good, but I was not controlled at all. Okay, I was a bit more controlled. I do kind of feel confined in this little space, so I'm gonna start from the very end. How do you iterate? Prioritizing efficiency. Instead of prioritizing speed and just getting things over with, you really want to give yourself time to build that confidence. Just like you might be ignoring the fear when you find yourself in that state of fear. Otherwise, you might be ignoring that sense of fear when you're in a situation where you want to just ignore it, or when you just want to fight it. Okay. I was a bit heavy on that back foot. Again, it's okay. I'm building the confidence. It doesn't happen on my time. It happens on the time it needs to. So in other words, you got to be patient as you build this confidence, so that the story you build is something that is actually there to stay, and not something that is so volatile. It's something that can just be changed when you have another experience of being in that state of fear. I'm gonna give it one try and see how these 6 reps help me reach the goal of actually landing it. So that was a good attempt. I actually applied myself, like staying over that lead foot, being engaged, making sure I'm jumping straight up. So a lot of us are super wired to think we have to be in a battle when it's a new trick. But instead of thinking of being in a battle, in a physical battle, you want to be more in a chess game, where it's something that takes strategy, something that you can use experience to win or to overcome that challenge, and something where it's a bit more efficient. It's more of a strategic fight, a strategic boxing match, instead of just a brawl where you're just throwing hands. Even though that guy who throws hands might win sometimes, you know? But we're setting ourselves up for efficiency, sustainability, longevity, and I digress. It may not happen today, and that's totally fine. I'm going to do one more. Because I have a bit more airtime, I can kind of slow it down. So I'm going to iterate upon the last one and think about slowing it down and also staying with the board, unlike the last one. Okay, I just felt like a whole, like just thinking about commitment. This is what the comment was referring to. When you're going back to the trick and you start to feel that fear creep in, you want to be like, no, and like go for it. But you want to actually let that have you take a breather and kind of laugh at it. Be curious of why it came so soon, or in between your attempts. For me, because I invite it and I want to ask questions and I want to have a conversation with it, I know it's because I haven't built that confidence to stick this trick on this 4-stair. So this feedback might tell me, my dude, you just probably need to try it off of a curb first. Depending on how this one goes, my intention is to fully go for it. If I can't go for it, if I just freeze up, then I need to take it to a curb. And I need to be patient so that I can build this confidence. Okay. So right now I feel like I need to psych myself up. This is me. And that feeling from experience, I know, is one where I want to get into a fight or flight state. That's what I really depended on when I first started skateboarding, because I didn't know any better. But now, because I understand I don't need to rely on that fight or flight tense state to land tricks, I allow myself to take time, take a breather, practice it on something a bit more inviting, so that I'm able to be a bit more prepared. I'm forcing it. I feel tense. I feel that fight or flight. I definitely know I'm capable of it, but I'm not filming for a video part. I'm not in a situation where I have to work through it right now. But in the sense I was to work through it, it'd probably take a couple hours, and I would have to go to the curb. I would have to practice this trick with speed, because I noticed that as I drop down and setting up, I'm like, whoa, this is a bit too fast. But it's the speed needed to be effective with landing this trick. Instead of trying to rush the process and fight fear, I want to work with it and be patient and allow myself to build confidence with time, because that's what's going to be sustainable in your efforts to overcoming fear, by having a conversation with it and by seeing it as a positive, as opposed to something that you have to get rid of. Have a conversation with fear, be curious, build confidence, and be more effective with your skateboarding. Check out the lives, the membership if you haven't already. There's going to be so many more videos just like this. So if you want to be a part of this conversation, leave a comment, leave a question, and or I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe, do all that stuff, like, it actually really helps. Apparently 70 or 77%, one of those numbers, of you watch this channel all the time. I don't think that, right? YouTube tells me. So if you're someone who's finding value in these videos, or is just someone curious about what I'm talking about, please consider subscribing and leaving comments. It really helps a lot, and I appreciate you so much. And Brian appreciates you guys too. He wants me to tell you that. I also offer coaching and lessons. So if that's something of interest, you want to send me a message through YouTube or check out my Instagram at profe.carlos, profe.carlos. You might be coming back from skateboarding from a long break. You might be someone who's hit a plateau, or you might just want to see how you can actually lean into your potential instead of just being at a plateau where you're not really sure where to go from. Look forward to an elaborated conversation on this topic. Appreciate your comments and questions. Check out the lives, check out the memberships. I'll see you on the next video.